your profile story. Let's get the due date out of the way right away. It's due April 10th, 11:59 p.m. It's one of your writing assignments. Unlike the hard news story, you don't have to actually travel physically somewhere. Sometimes you do because that's just the best way to get your interview, or it just makes sense. But especially now, when I started teaching this class years ago, Zoom, doing those kinds of interviews, much more uncommon, people much more unfamiliar. Now you have the luxury of, hey, it's no problem, let's get on a Zoom call, let's get on with some video chat, bam, and you can get this interview done. So unlike the hard news story, you don't have to go somewhere physically. You may want to, though. It will be your choice. You also do not have to get this confirmed with me, what your story is going to be. You, of course, could run the story idea by me, who you want to interview, and I could, just give you my thoughts on it, but you don't need to on this one. Because as long as you are really profiling a person with, and I'm going to give you the second piece of this, as long as you're profiling an appropriate person, I don't really care much who that person is, right? So you will write a profile story, which means you're going to write about somebody's life. And I say that loosely because it is not like a biography. You don't have to go from the beginning to the end of their life. Maybe you do if it makes sense for why you're writing about them. More important is you're just writing about some aspect of their life, and that's where the book has helped you out figuring out like what makes telling someone's story newsworthy. But I've had recently a lot of people, because of COVID, especially when I was teaching this class in the height of COVID, they owned a business, someone owned a business and they were having trouble. Somebody was a single mom with 3 kids and trying to go to school, doing an interview on them, how tough that is. So you're finding some aspect of their life that's interesting for people to read about. You don't have to go from the beginning to the end of everybody's life, or up to the point where they are, right, of everybody's life for the profile story. Maybe it makes sense. Maybe it makes sense if they're a refugee from a country and from a young age they had X, Y, and Z happen to them and they came to America and then this and that led them to here. Well, maybe that makes sense to go through the whole scope of their life. But it might not make sense for everybody. Not everybody you need to tell from the beginning to the end. So you will write a profile. You are going to be featuring somebody, but the aspect that you want of that person is going to depend, right? I said you write about an interesting person. I know everybody's interesting. So if you are writing about somebody, my point is, just like I said a minute ago, if find something, an interesting angle to them. It shouldn't just be like, hey, Jane Smith, she's a 30-year-old, X, Y, and Z. She does this every day, and, she likes dogs. Okay, that's like every Jane Smith that I know who's 30-year-old that does this, goes to work every day and likes dogs. Find the interesting angle about her, and that's what you're focusing on. And really what I'm just saying right now is apply the lessons from the chapter we've been learning on how do you tell a story, how do you find pivot points, how do you find, build up the character. That's got to be applied, and it's got to make sense while you're writing about this person. All right, here's my one piece of this. It can't be a family member or friend. Now look, I won't be able to, for the most part, unless the last names are the same, it's going to be very hard for me to know if you're telling the truth on this or not. But I'm trusting you all to go outside your comfort zone a little bit and get an acquaintance. It's not that difficult. I'll just give my basic example. I've had a lot of students before say, hey, I'm friends with someone on a band. Can I do another band member? I know them. We've gone out together. I've seen them after my friend from their band. They know my name. Is that okay? Yeah, that's an acquaintance. You don't know a lot about them. You can know the person. Hey, can I do it on my coach? Sure. You know your coach, but really only in the context of on the playing field. Right? Yeah, go ahead. Do your coach beyond that. Like, who is this person? How do they get to where they are? What are their ambitions? Sure. Pastor, I'm trying to think of anybody else. Another professor. Those all work. You know the person, but you don't really know them. You don't know their story. If that's the case, then yes. What I'm having you try to do is avoid something that you think you already know all about them. You're going outside. Go outside your comfort zone. Write in a Word document, don't write it on Blackboard, we've got that. All right, so a lot of this is going to be very similar from before, but I'm going to focus on, and I'll make sure that we talk about the pieces that are different. You're not using reporting from other stories or direct language from other stories. So you can't take quotes from other stories, even if the person's been written about before. Yes, you could use maybe pieces of that reporting if you say that you got it from that reporting, but that means you still need to get your quotes, and your own information. So you're not just kind of rewriting other news stories. You have to have, and here's the difference, at least 4 direct quotes that you obtained, right? So you're the one who got these quotes. The quotes must be recorded by you and original to your reporting. So that's what we were just talking about again with the website. Even if they're quoted on another person's, in another news article, on our website, or some other blogger did something on them, doesn't matter. You got to get your own original quotes, from them, from your interview of them. A little bit longer than the hard news story, between 650 and 750 words. Don't go below, don't go above. Just like before, have short paragraphs, 1 to 3, 5 at the most, and even that is really pushing it. There better be a good reason why you have 5 sentences. 1 to 3 is what you're aiming for. Lead, still keep it 1 sentence. Be written in the third person. You are also taking yourself out of this, so it's not this person said this to me, right? That's first person, so you're definitely not doing that. I interviewed this person on a rainy day. You were first person. But also avoid this. The person told this reporter. You don't need to say that. We all get it when we're reading it that you interviewed there was a reporter that clearly interviewed this person. So you just say the quote. You just say what happened. Again, you don't put yourself in the story at all, even if you're referring to yourself in the third person. This reporter thought this about this person. This person said this to this reporter. That's still you being in the story. Take yourself completely out of the story. There should be no reference of you as the reporter in there. There should definitely be no first person in there, right? Third person, past tense as well. All right, what will I be grading on? How well defined the focus is. These are all key parts from those chapters, so you will have a good idea on what this all means. But I'll just verbally say it so we can have it. You can read it and hear it at the same time. How well the focus is defined, how well the theme is presented throughout the story. And remember, there is a difference between a focus and the theme, so I'm going to be looking for both of those. If background information is presented strategically, did you just have all this information, you just threw it all in there, or did you really think about where do I place this information, right? And again, this does not have to be chronological order. Most of the times it will not be. So with that said, this makes it a little bit more difficult for you deciding when do you strategically introduce a piece of information. That's part of this. The writing is clear, concise, and informative. The quality of quotes and the information you got from the interview. These go hand in hand. What quotes did you use? Why did you use them? Was it strategic? Is there a reason why you used those quotes? And of course, the quality of quotes is going to be a factor of how well your interview was. Did you get the proper information needed in those quality quotes to use in the story? How well the goal method was used. Of course, goal is an acronym that's described in the book, so make sure that you are applying that. If turning points were addressed, that's always a key one. Where are those turning points? There's always going to be a turning point if it's a good profile story, sometimes a couple, right? But I'm looking for turning points. AP style, don't throw that all out the window. I gave you a lot of edits on AP style in the first one, and I was very lenient. This one I'm going to be a little stricter because now I've given you the feedback, and in next week you'll also be doing another AP exercise. So I'm looking to make sure that you are elevating, you're getting a little better at AP style. How well the lessons from the chapters are being applied, and if it's free from spelling or grammar errors. All right, so you got a few weeks to do this. Like always, don't cram it for the last week because you're going to have other assignments. If you want feedback at any point or just advice, please email me. We can talk about it. We can talk about who it is that you want to interview, why. We can talk about maybe what kind of questions you want to ask them. Anywhere you feel like, in the process, whether it's beforehand, just getting ideas on whom you should interview, whether it's before you do your questioning, whether it's after. Hey, I've got all this information. Now what do I do with it? These are the types of things I can help out with. I'm going to leave you with one last good piece of advice that maybe helps you out here. You're going to interview this person. It's going to probably be a long interview, but now you only got to get it down to 650 to 750 words, right? This is what I suggest you do. Take your notes, put it aside. If you recorded it, put it aside. Sit on it for a day or a few hours or whatever. And then I like to do like a day at least, right? And then the next day, I like to think and say, okay, what stood out for me from that interview? Like, what are some things I still really remember from that interview? Those are the things you're probably going to want to write about. Because if that's what's still standing out in your mind, the person said this happened to them, wow, that was really sad when this happened, that's really inspirational when this happened to them. If those things are still the key parts that are floating around in your head after the interview, a day later, those are probably the important moments that you need to cover, the foundation of your story. And then the other details, then you go back to your notes and find those other details that fill in everything else, right? But that's a good way to help you organize your thoughts and get you on the right track to start writing this, because you're going to have a lot of information and you're going to have to decide what is the theme and how do I present this? What do I need to make sure is the focus? What do I need to make sure that I present early? That's a good way of doing it. All right, any questions, let me know. But otherwise, I look forward to seeing these in just a few weeks.